if you hold your reserves abroad, there is always a risk. What if the relations sour? What if your reserves are seized? And there are many such examples. Russia has some $300 billion of reserves stored in the West. All of it has been frozen after the Ukraine war, meaning Russia cannot access its own wealth, $300 billion. Afghanistan is another example. Their total reserves are worth $9.5 billion. Around 70% of this is held in the US. So when the Taliban came to power, the Americans froze this money. Kabul still does not have access to the reserves.
The United States cuffed Russia's gold, about $300 billion worth. And if the UK and India get to beefing or find themselves at cross purposes, what's stopping the UK from seizing the gold that India has stored in the Bank of England? This is the case for self-custody. And as I'll point out, it's not just for countries. It's for individuals like you. Now, I don't typically do reactions to other videos, but I wanted you guys to hear it from the source so that you know this is not just Big Walt blowing smoke. So rock with me. Before we dive into this video, I'll give you the highlights. India just repatriated 100 tons of gold from the Bank of England. But from what I understand, it still has gold stored outside of India to the tune of 400 plus tons. Why store its gold in England in the first place? In a word, liquidity. London has one of the world's largest gold bullion markets, and storing gold there facilitates international trading settlements. If you think about it a little bit, this also applies to individual consumers. In this day and age, you obviously need to keep your walk-around money in a bank. Almost everything we do is e-commerce, and you can't do e-commerce with cash. So keeping money in the bank is also a means of achieving the kind of liquidity that allows us to easily transact. With cash in hand, it's impossible to make purchases from Amazon.com, Uber, or DoorDash. Money in the bank with a debit card is what makes this possible, and credit cards as well. Anyway, let's dive into this video and see what India is up to.
Recently, a very special aircraft flew from the UK to India. Very few people knew about it because the cargo was sensitive. Around 100 tons of gold. And before you ask, no, it was not some illegal smuggling ring. This is as legal as it gets. This gold belongs to India's central bank, the RBI, or the Reserve Bank of India. Until now, it was stored at the Bank of England in London. But the RBI has brought it back, 100 tons of gold. It's happened for the first time since 1991. Now, I know you have questions, so let's go one by one. Why does RBI have gold? Well, every central bank in the world has gold reserves because unlike currencies, gold is stable. Say your country falls into an economic crisis or you're running low on dollars, you can use this gold to bail yourself out. So every country has gold reserves. In fact, central banks own 17% of all the gold ever mined, 17%. And how much does the RBI have? The Reserve Bank of India. They have around 822 tons of gold. More than half of this was stored abroad, outside India, in the Bank of England and the Bank of International Settlements. Which brings us to the second question. Why was it stored abroad? Well, some of the gold was there even before independence. Indian gold was stored outside. The rest was sent out during the 1990s. Back then, India was facing an economic crisis, so the RBI kept the gold in England. It's actually common practice. The Bank of England stores 400,000 bars of gold, 4 lakh bars of gold. Some of it belongs to Britain, the rest belongs to other central banks. They keep it in London for safekeeping. But why in London? Why not in the home country? Because London is one of the most important gold markets in the world. Say you want to pledge your gold or you want to sell it and raise money, then London offers you liquidity. New York is another important gold market, which is why the Federal Reserve is also a safekeeping vault. They too store foreign gold. Now,
quick side story. When I was doing my MBA, we actually did a a residency on Wall Street, and I actually went to the Federal Reserve, and I actually got to see the vault and look at the gold bars stored in the vault. It's crazy to see that. I mean, it's crazy. Anyway.
Now to question number 3. Why has India brought it back? For starters, you can save a lot of money. The Bank of England does not store your gold for free. They charge a fee. Now you don't have to pay it. Secondly, it boosts sovereignty. If you hold your reserves abroad, there is always a risk. What if the relations sour? What if your reserves are seized? And there are many such examples. Russia has some $300 billion of reserves stored in the West. All of it has been frozen after the Ukraine war, meaning Russia cannot access its own wealth, $300 billion. Afghanistan is another example. Their total reserves are worth $9.5 billion. Around 70% of this is held in the US. So when the Taliban came to power, the Americans froze this money. Kabul still does not have access to the reserves.
That's a gangster move, yo. But that's what the United States government can do to other governments. So obviously, you make your own inferences.
Now, I'm not saying that India and Britain will fall out or that India's gold will be frozen. But it's always safer to keep it at home. Plus, there is an emotional angle. In the 1990s, India had to shift gold abroad. Every Indian knows what that feels like. Gold has a sentimental value here. Pledging it or selling it is a last resort. But in the 90s, India had no option but to do it, which is why bringing the gold back is a symbolic move, like exorcising those demons. And it's been a gradual journey for India. In 2009, New Delhi made the first step. It brought 200 tons of gold. It bought 200 tons of gold from the International Monetary Fund. It cost us around $6.7 billion. Again, the idea was the same, to diversify and consolidate India's reserves. 15 years later, another move has been made. Now, what will happen to this gold, the 100 tons that has been brought in? Well, the RBI has its own gold vaults. One is in the Mumbai office, the other is in Nagpur. So the 100 tons of gold will be stored there. It's a vote of confidence in the Indian economy. Our foreign reserves are near a record high. They stand at $464 billion. That's enough for 11 months of imports, which is why the RBI is confident. They don't foresee the need to pledge or sell this gold. Hence the decision to bring it back. I guess combined with the GDP numbers, it's one of the best days for India's economy.
Yeah, so if you think about it and read between the lines, there's a bunch of different reasons why India might have made this move. But by and large, she used the word risk in repatriating their gold to self-custody their gold. That eliminates the risk. So India is making the case for self-custody, and on this Blog Boys channel, we're big fans of self-custody. Self-custodying your crypto and self-custodying your money in general. Anyway, let me know what you think about in the comments, fam. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Holla.